Hello and welcome back to Compiler Programming. In the last video, I made this change to make labels be relative to the sections. So now we have this enum that says whether it is section code or section data. And this was a good middle step for this refactoring. And if you haven't watched this video, I will add a overlay there, a link with the overlay, so you can watch it. But today I wanted to sort of continue in the same theme, and in particular I want to make sections into their own thing. So instead of section being an enum, section will now be a struct, and there will be no explicit like code or data, at least I hope there won't be. We might still need to refer to code very explicitly, but I hope that we can have like multiple data-like sections, and the main code will not care about that. But we'll just see how it will go. So we have type-def struct, we have section. I guess I want to have something along the lines of name. And this is what is going to be used in executable. So something like rdata, whatever. In the JIT mode, it's not really relevant, but it doesn't hurt. And then each section then needs to have something. Probably we will have a bucket buffer here. At least data section has a bucket buffer, so it would only make sense if this one has as well. And we also would need to know at some point something like base address or base RV, which stands for relative virtual address. What else do we want to have in here? I guess that's about it. Maybe we also want to have permissions. So I would say section permission flags. Yeah, section permissions. Permissions, and this is going to be another enum that tells us whether we can read, write, and execute this particular section. Right now, it's basically hard-coded that we have a data section that we can read and write to, and we have a code section that I think we can just only execute, but might be we also can read from it. So would be nice if we can just make this more explicit. So section permissions read section, and I want it to be flags, so we will do it like that. Or maybe it's easier to do it that way. So we have read permission, we have write permission, and we'll have execute permission. Read, write, execute. Something like that. So if we try to build now, we will have a lot of errors because we got rid of that section thing. And before we even try to fix them, we need to change how our program works. So as you can see here, there is code base RVA and database RVA, and now we're just gonna fold it into that section thing. So I think we will have something like array section sections, maybe. I'm not sure if we'll need to make it a hash map and if we will need to have explicitly access to a particular kind of section. So it is possible that I will need to still know about the data section and the code sections, the basic one. So our data and data, or RO data. Let's see, but this should also go away here. For now, I will not add them, and then I will see how it will go later. Maybe I do need to add an array version of this. So let's do that. Array section. Okay. Now we have even more errors. So let's start dealing with them one by one. Value global internal. Okay. So yeah, it wants to have access to data buffer, and instead, okay, one thing that we need to change as well is what label is, and label will now hold. It's a bit tricky. So if we are storing sections on the program, then they will not be, like, we cannot take a pointer to them, because if the array is resized, then we lose all the pointer information. So I think what I will do instead is I will actually have a section pointer, and this is what is going to be stored on the program. Because we don't create and destroy programs all the time, like, I don't think I need to be very careful managing memory of this. So it is fine if this becomes a pointer. And maybe later what we will do is we will just take that temp allocators that we have, and we will stuff it on a program instead, and then that everything will be allocated from there. So then it should be fine. Okay, but now that we did it this way, we can go back to label, and label will now point to a section. And the reason I want to do that is because then maybe, so I was thinking if I should pass the section here directly, but I think for now I will keep it as sort of it was, in a sense, and I will store data section and code sections explicitly here. Should I then not make it an array, I wonder? Okay, yeah, let's do the minimal change first. I'll just do section data section, and then I will have a section that is code section. That should allow us to do minimal changes to this. So we will say data section, and then this doesn't need to be pointer. Data section buffer, I guess. Does that make sense? From bucket buffer to bucket buffer star. Yeah, I guess. That's an interesting question. Should they make it as a pointer or not? I guess that should be fine like that, maybe. I don't know. So this is a pointer. Let's put it as a pointer there as well. And that was inside here. Buffer star. Oh, and we need this here then. Okay, the same sort of thing here. And now we just pass data section here as a pointer and convert from section to section. That's because make label expects a section. So let's fix make label. Okay, that's better. And here, I guess now we don't need this assert. The only thing that we care about is, so we'll just say label section buffer and label offset and section. So this is much nicer, I think, and more generic as well. This is not even reap value pointer get. This is sort of, well, I guess it is. Okay, the same thing here, kinda. What this will get into. So we don't need this assert, I guess. We can here make it into something like this. So we say program code section, and then we have label section base array. Okay, let's hope that that works. Programming it. This is where things get interesting. So in the have data section, and we will have code section, and both of them need to have a buffer. Buffer is bucket buffer make, and we don't need this one. In reality, right now, we're not gonna really use the buffer inside the code section because like we are deferring the encoding of the instruction till the end of the program, but I plan to change that and we encode them right away in them sort of as we parse the program, and then it will go directly here. But for now, it's just gonna be empty, which is perfectly fine. Okay, program data buffer. Yeah, that is like so. I wonder why it was ifed, and let's see if something breaks when we don't do that. So we always say program data section buffer and code section buffer. I think I know. We delete this buffer when we end, or at least at some point I used to delete this buffer after doing the compilation of doing program JIT, but I don't think that's the case anymore, so that should be fine. Okay, what's next? Program resolve label to RVA. Well, now we don't need to have this switch, and instead we just go into section. So we have, say, label, section, base 3. Okay. So this is data section buffer. I guess I can, no, I don't want to globally replace because I want to actually look at the usages of this stuff before I do that. Okay, this just copies out data buffer, that's fine. And this is where we remove it. So that's what that if was after, and we don't really want to do that anymore. Okay. So program base RVA and code section base RVA. That's fine. Here we will, this is actually where we will probably change things around. So right now, imports are in the writable section, but we eventually will move them to read-only section. But for now, that's fine. Maybe I will fix me move to read-only section. Program data section. Okay, so that file is done. Next one. We have basically the same thing, program code section. Nothing really fancy here. Section code, another one. Okay, function encode. I think eventually a function builder should also get access to a section that it is in. So it should get a label, maybe, or something like that. I mean, it already has a label. I mean, if it does have a label, then we can use it. This might be tricky, but let's try that. So we say label section base array. Operand. We need to actually get the label. Okay. So let's do that. Label star label is program get label of program rent label, and you go here. Okay, that should be fine, and it's actually nicer because we don't hard code any particular thing here. So technically we could have multiple sections with functions, hopefully. Let's see how it will work out. Okay, that's very easy. Program. So I think eventually we will need to like pass down some kind of builder set thing for code that is not exactly a function builder. I think I will like split function builder into two parts. The one that is actually has to do with the function, and maybe that will be more inside of the function descriptor. And the second one has to do with just sort of a block of code that you continuously build up. That's what probably should continue, will contain the instructions and all of this stuff. But that is not right now. Right now we are making this change. This also we should solve the problem that explicitly take like this particular section from program. I mean, to be honest, all of these make or, make and so on, they will hopefully be removed from the compiler in favor of macros, but that is also not something to do for now. Okay. This is where it might be tricky. So we need to copy out the sections, or rather here we make them empty. Code section buffer is bucket buffer make, and where's our init thing here? So let's do it this way. And data, we were just using the other data. This is fine as long as we are not dealing with different endianness of the systems, but I don't plan to touch that anytime soon, so I guess that is fine for us to do it that way as well. So we copy this. Yeah. This is not gonna work very well. So the issue that we will get now is with the labels, because labels point to a particular section, and if we are copying that out, then they will point to something different. Fix me, this is probably broken now. So let's see what happens to the test. I want to go through the code and see if there are any other weird things besides this one that we need to deal with, and then come back to this later. Because we copy because code once should point to a different section. I mean, there are multiple ways how we can deal with it. We can turn the sections into indexes, same as we do for labels. We can do manual copy here, where we sort of patch the pointers. Let's see what we want to do there. Okay. Ideally, this should receive a section that it deals with, but for now, we will just put it like this. Okay, This is actually done. This is to fix me from the last video. Okay. So actually this is also wrong. It should be our data, should be data, I think. Okay. Data section base array. Data section buffer and data section buffer. Okay, so that builds. The only really sneaky thing that might happen is here. Honestly, I want to change completely how this works, but hopefully I don't have to do it in this video, but you never know. So we'll see that. Okay, let's just run tests. Okay, so the test actually runs. That is fine for me. Let's figure out. So episode 122, make turn sections or prepare for allowing to have non-hard-coded sections. I think one last thing I want to do here is with the permissions. When we create the section, we want to set some permissions on it. So here we say permissions is section permissions read and section permissions write. And then here it is should be just section permissions execute. Something like that. Since we are recreating the code section here, I guess I need to permissions. It's not a member of sections. What do they call it? Permissions. Okay. So that obviously just specifies them, but it's not actually used. If we want to use it, then we need to do that here. So here's our virtual protect, and actually it's set up as execute read. Shouldn't it be just execute? Let's run tests like this. Yeah, so first of all, it should be just execute, that's fine. And now we need to set up permissions for the code segment. I guess I want to turn it into a function, something like program JIT set section let's figure out what the type of this is. So I want to know virtual protect. Okay, it is just dword. Okay, so say dword win32 permissions is section permissions to win32 virtual protect flags, and then I will pass program code section. Okay, and now we will do it this way, right? Dword. Maybe I actually want to prefix them with win32, so it is slightly easier to distinguish them in the code. Okay. And it accepts a section. Should it just accept section permissions? I guess it's better if it just accept section permissions. And now I want to say GWord Result is 0. Where is like page execute? Memory protection constants. Are you actually flags? You're not flags. Kind of? This is weird. So the values that they use are like flags, but then you're not supposed to use them as flags because you have like read write, which is a separate thing from read only, like it doesn't include it. Otherwise it would be 6, not 4. So I guess we will need to do this weird mapping. It says if permissions and section permissions execute if permissions and section permissions write. So write will imply read because write copy is very different. So we say return page execute read write, else if permissions read, then it just executes read. Otherwise, it is just execute. Okay, so now we know it's not execute, and we can just say basically take this stuff. So if it is write, then it's gonna be read write, and otherwise it's page read only. And if it doesn't have any flags, then we just say that it is Page no access. Okay. And here we'll just say permissions. If I haven't messed this up, then we should still have a working program and it should take permissions from the section. But let's see. Okay, so that is very nice. I don't actually explicitly set permissions for the data section right now. And the whole way this is done is a bit yucky, so I guess so this is global data. We have global data size, and we can do the same thing here, where we set up permissions for the data segment. Data section. I don't know if you should call it section or segment, doesn't really matter, I guess. Program, data section, data size. Yeah, that should be fine. Let me recheck what we do in init. Yeah, that should be perfectly okay. Let's test that. It still works, which is great. Now, one final thing is, I guess we need this 32 thing to be extracted into the value because P32 also needs access to it. It needs to do the same thing. Where is execute? It actually has, so I think it has different constants for that. Yeah, that's not very cool. Well, I guess the nice thing is it means that we don't need to expose it. The bad thing means that we will need to copy this code. What does initialize data actually do? Yeah, that's... I guess this is security stuff, because otherwise I don't know. Maybe the point is then this does not copy stuff from the executable, so you can just say, okay, this is a section of data, but I don't actually care what is in there, so give me an initialized memory. I'm not even sure this works right now. Like it will give you all zeros anyway, so you can consider it sort of initialized anyway. I don't know. I'm not certain what this does, so I'm just gonna assume that I can always do initialize data. What happens if I add initialize data in here? Is it gonna be very angry at? Well, first of all, it's angry to be B32 section characteristics. Okay, it doesn't seem to be very angry at me if I always add initialized data. but maybe I shouldn't. What is coded? Yeah, I really don't know what these do. I need to look it up. But what I will do is say that if I have execute, then it will also get CNT code. And if it's not execute, then it gets initialize data, I guess. Also, this is actually a lie, because this should also be right now. Yeah. Okay, so let's make it happen. We have execute. If you have execute, then you get it like this. Is it also a GWord? Yeah. Okay, so here it's slightly different. We have GWord, result is 0, then result or equals count code and execute. And if it's right, then we add scn right. Actually, now this can be outside. So read, and there is nothing. And here that we actually have an else that will just say that it is initialized data. And I will add a to-do figuring out what do I need to do about that. What does that actually do? Does initialized data, and the same here with what does CNT code actually do? So let's do that by one. We would say program data section permissions. Okay, that's a very long name for a function, but it's fine. To it's not STM, it's mem. Okay, another round of tests. And the same thing should go here. Okay, cool. So that is probably about it for today. We extracted sections to be their own thing, and now we have a generic way to map their permissions both inside of an executable and inside of JIT code, which is pretty neat and allows us to hopefully later, for example, add a new section that will actually be read-only data instead of both read and write. So yeah, 122. Make use of section permissions when generating code. Cool. That would be it. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully see you next time.